as we just heard, U.S. President Donald Trump now says he will impose higher tariffs on chips unless companies are manufacturing in the United States. And with President Lee Jae Myung set to meet Trump soon, eyes are now on the economic impact this may have on South Korean businesses and the economy. For more on this, we're joined by Professor Shim Myungkyu, Associate Professor of Economics at Yonsei University. Professor Shim, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
So Trump now says the United States will charge a 100% tariff on foreign-made chips, and he also said he plans to announce tariffs on pharmaceuticals soon. How might this affect Korean companies?
While both industries can be negatively affected by higher than expected tariff rate announced by President Trump, expected effects seem to be different between the two industries. First, export of pharmaceuticals to the U.S. was about 20% of all exports, which took significant portions. This implies that higher price due to the tariff might have a significant negative impact on the industry. In contrast, according to the recent data, direct export of the semiconductor firms to the U.S. is less than 1% of all the export. Importantly, Micron, the U.S. semiconductor producing firm, also produces much of its goods in Taiwan and Japan. This makes the semiconductor firms not to lose their price competitiveness in the U.S. market, making the effect of the tariff, which is announced to be strikingly high today, limited.
Right, and Seoul and Washington also reached a trade deal last week. Will the details of the tariff agreement be on the agenda when Presidents Lee Jae Myung and Donald Trump meet later this month?
Yes, and it is highly likely that they will spend some time to discuss the details of the trade tariff agreement, given that officials from both countries expressed different opinions about the details of the agreement. As recent news on the tariff agreement between the U.S. and Japan showed, there seems to be more rooms to discuss further details on the already agreed agreement. For example, how much the Korean government should spend more on defense spending has not yet been fully agreed upon, and President Trump might link the issue to the tariff again to push President Lee to get additional profits from the tariff policy.
Right, like you just mentioned, the two countries' officials have different opinions on the key details of the agreement. With disagreements over these issues like rice market access and Trump's unpredictability, how will talks on the specific details of the deal unfold?
Yes, as you just pointed out, both governments seem to have different views on the details of the agreement. And this creates another layer of uncertainty which can affect the Korean economy in a negative direction further. In addition to the rice market access, details on the investment fund, including the structure of how to distribute the revenue from the fund across the countries, can also be further discussed because officials from both countries seem to have somewhat contradicting views on this issue. Also, while the Korean government argues that there is no change in the trade policy related to rice and beef markets, at this stage, I'm not so sure whether the U.S. government will not acquire additional access to the market in the near future, given that its stance on the trade policy has changed a lot even after the announcement of the agreement.
Right, and as for the wider region, U.S. tariffs on its trading partners are set to take effect on Thursday, U.S. local time. So what impact will this have on the global economy?
Yeah, for this, I'm a little bit sure than the other issues, as there is a consensus among economists on this issue. It will clearly have negative impacts on the global economy. First, overall price level will increase globally due to higher tariff rate. And this seems to be already take place in the US, as the CPI inflation rate in June was higher than expected. Second, lower export to the US will drag down production from the exporting countries like Korea, which also increase unemployment rate. And the problem is that these two issues together makes the problem and the economy more difficult to solve, especially for the central banks, because they require the opposite actions. Higher prices require higher interest rate as the policy response, but higher unemployment requires lower interest rate as the ultimate response. And this might eventually make the global economy to enter severe recessions if the situation continues.
I see. I guess we'll have to see how that plays out. All right, Professor Shim, thank you so much for your insight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.